Coreweave down 9%. Like I said, kind of an odd quarter for them. No, I don't think it's long, but I'm not sure guys like Chanos have it right on it exactly. D-Wave is a better short because is the best short in quantum, I think, because they basically have said that they're going to have revenue now, and the opposite is happening. So it's a pretty clear short. IonQ and Rigetti have kind of, tried to at least sort of paint a picture of a future quantum utopia. IonQ's tried a little harder than Rigetti. Hasn't really changed stock prices. QUBT is kind of like, its own weird, non-company company. I wouldn't even say IonQ's the best of the worst because IonQ has got all kinds of other issues. The amount of promotion is just intolerable. They're talking about quantum networking and bought a space company and all this kind of nonsense. I mean, you can discount anything that represents profits or income. Doesn't really matter. Most businesses these days are capital light, so net income and free cash flow converge. I'm not taking sides. Don't worry, I have something planned for quantum. And let me just say, it's downright diabolical. Well, I mean, I think companies should focus on the year-to-year instead of the quarter-to-quarter. Great companies do that. But I have a good question for all quantum observers, including quantum bulls. What is your definition of quantum computing? I think if you focus on the quarters too much, you run the risk of losing the point of what's driving the business. Yeah, I think it's EVTOLs, nuclear, it's all the same stock. Oklo, all these stock charts are the same. There's no rhyme or reason, and analyzing the space is kind of almost like an inside joke or something, It's very challenging to understand quantum computing. You're not alone. You're not alone at all. Veritasium has a good one. There's just so much capital. Somebody was showing me a chart of how much more capital retail has than hedge funds. And keep in mind, there's no mutual funds. In the dot-com bubble, mutual funds were buying speculative stocks, right? The mutual funds have stopped doing that. There's index funds, but like Fidelity is not touching these stocks. Fidelity used to buy all the dot-com pump stocks, and there used to be funds just dedicated, kind of like ARK, just dedicated to buying pump stuff, and they were much bigger than they are now. More people bought into the dot-com revolution, so it's kind of still early in some ways. Yeah, I wish I had the time to record videos. I was just talking to one of my colleagues about that yesterday, doing clips. I don't know that there are too many quantum use cases, unfortunately. Best use case I can think of for quantum is Shores, but we're pretty far away from that. No special new short for Joby or anything. Just same small position. I mean, I barely know the company though, so I'm not keeping that close tabs with Joby. Yeah, I don't know how IonQ said that. I want to look back at the transcript. Oh, they're doing Fontan? That's funny. I was going to do a Fontan drug. Fontan procedure is a very, very rare surgery. They're trying to act like Shkreli don't know medicine, man. Come on, man. Oh, it's okay. It's Korean stock. It's hard to short Korean stock sometimes. I've done it, but they banned short selling for a while. Yeah, no, I'll look at it. I mean, I don't mind looking at it as long as you don't mind signing up for Godel. Nvidia's most traded so far, 6 million shares, down 30 bips. There's a story out there on Nvidia. There's some Nvidia research out there that Rubin's delayed, but it's sort of big news if it's real. Just looking for the primary source. But in the meantime, Novo's also traded 6 million shares, up slightly. Open Door as well. I saw 𝗕𝗏𝗏 put out a little tweet on Open Door. Did he start Open Door? I forget exactly what the story was there. Either started it or invested in it, or I'm not sure what. Tencent on their conference call said they have enough chips and many options for inference chips, which is an interesting thing. It's not bullish for Nvidia. 13F is starting to come out. Trump also said he might let them get an H100 or something, let China have it. But Coreweave is also a sign of Nvidia, right? Coreweave's not doing well. That's one of their big customers. So one thing to keep in mind. So definitely a couple bear signs on Nvidia. Nothing too, dangerous, but apparently there's location trackers now in some of these chips to make sure they don't, tracking devices they're putting on Nvidia chips. Pretty wild. There are some inference chips coming out, so that's something that could threaten Nvidia as well. Now on the flip side, demand is unprecedented. I saw some people complaining last night about the valuation of Nvidia, and I said, get ready for 10 trillion. So many different things going on, right? You have GPT-5, many other weird dynamics. So let's see. We think it's very likely that Rubin will be delayed. The first version of Rubin was already taped out in late June. Nvidia reports in 2 weeks, I believe. Okay, so we got Rubin taped out June 2025. That's really cool. So we have a R100 coming, right? So the Blackwell, I still haven't used the Blackwell. They're not on Lambda yet, well, for me at least. Then we've got, let's see. So the first Rubin chip was already taped out in late June, but Nvidia is now redesigning the chip to better match AMD's MI450 coming AMD chip. Let's open our AMD Model 2. I really don't want to be a semiconductor analyst, but I think the stars are aligning, unfortunately. Oh no, a Sarepta lawsuit? Who's suing them? So redesigning chip to better match AMD's upcoming chip. I think Rubin will likely hit 2,000 watts. So let's put down the wattage on these things, right? Oh no, they're getting sued? Who's suing them? No, Matt B saw a lawsuit. I want to know. So Blackwell's 700 watts. B200 can take a little more, I think. The H100 is 700 watts as well. It's going to all be about power someday, right? The A100 was 400 watts. I still use A100s. And the old V100, 250 to 300. For 4090 is 450 watts, which, let's see what the 5090 was. They really got 575 watts, 5090, that's TDP, or is it TPD? Total drawn power, or thermal design power. Levi and Krasinski is back. It was supposed to be 1800, so it might go to like 2000. Next tape out maybe in September. So they're finalizing this chip. Limited volume in 2026. I think that's more than fine, right? I mean, Blackwell can last us throughout all next year. So I guess is AMD going to use the CoWoS chip on wafer on substrate? And then there's an OpenAI chip coming, possibly. There's a Broadcom chip. All right, Denison Mines leaps ahead into top trading, but it's only a $2 stock, so it doesn't really count. Till Racing story there, up a slight amount. Sapiens up 50%. This is most likely got acquired, right? Financial software company for insurance, looks like. No, just good earnings. Maybe look at that at some point. CRE8, Create Enterprise, down 75%. Wow. This must be a short report or something. Its reputation is not great, I guess. So some of this information about that may not be real. So Create is another like Chinese scammer special. Down 71% here. Kava down 20%. We saw the earnings last night. Rigetti up 3% after a rough quarter. But, you know, no negative catalyst now for quantum. I mean, all the quantum earnings have reported, and, you know, there's nothing standing in the way between them and greatness. AMD up 4%, partially in the Fubon node. And Nvidia hanging in there just fine. Coreweave down 11%, one of their biggest customers. Don't like to see that if you're long Nvidia. Intel down 1.5%. Palantir up 1%, Apple up 1%, Tesla up a little less than 1%. SoundHound, we got to look at this one. This could be an actionable idea. It's up 6%. Webtoon, we looked at this a while back, up 50%. And SimilarWeb, which we are a customer of. Webtoon, good quarter. SimilarWeb, up 19%. And UAG continues its insane run, almost $100 a share now. Valneva up, Caris Life Sciences. Just the market's just going wild. You know, this is a huge bull market. It's hard to get in the way of anything, but you're seeing some signs of weakness, seeing some fractures around the corner. Restaurant stocks, again, could be very idiosyncratic because you have GLPs affecting restaurants. Coreweave, you know, expectations are probably just a little too high there. Circled down a bit on a secondary offering. But it's hard to see what stops the market from just rocking out. I mean, Oklo's got a 12 billion market cap. 12 billion. The company doesn't have a stitch of revenue, just a plan to make a reactor someday. Think about how crazy that is. 12 billion. Yeah, I think the rate cuts or rate hikes. IMQ down, nevertheless. QUBT down as well. So some of these stocks just had a big flash up and then just had a big flash down. Nvidia now up 12 cents. Again, big customer down 11%. Coreweave, I think the market may be shorting off that AMD news. Oh, I see Sarepta's up 3%. Portfolio rocking despite D-Wave ticking up a little bit. Rigetti down, Qubit down. ABVX up, closing in now on 30%. about 28% here. That's more like it. Yeah, I have to trim Sarepta at some point. It's kind of too big. Yeah, so to get the boxes, you go to ACM, or no, you go to PDF, personal defaults, and you do snap to grid, and you can adjust the grid size to be really tight or really wide. Somewhere in the middle is probably the right way to do it. Change your terminal key, a whole bunch of different things you could do in there, actually. I don't know if revenue growth is going to flatline, but yeah, Clark, I mean, look, you know me. If that Nvidia revenue growth is even a touch below a big number, the stock's going to get killed. But the valuation isn't that crazy. Yeah, snap to grid. I don't know, Squeegee. I just have too much, so it's it's one of those things where you really don't want one stock to really overwhelm your portfolio unless you're so sure of the upside. And I was so sure of the upside at 13. I said, there's no way Sarepta can go down anymore. I'm buying the company for 1x earnings. Now, it's 2x earnings. It's still pretty good, but it's not as exciting at this price, right? I kind of want to trim it, but at the same time, there's still a lot of upside. So when I say trim, I mean going from let me just tell you how much I have. Let's see. Yeah, at this point, it is 32% of my portfolio. It might be time to just do a little bit. Exactly, John Boy got it right. Vinay goes crazy and you get smoked. So pretty big position, yeah. Well, listen, I need to get up to 100% this year. Wifey won't be impressed unless I'm up 100. So. Well, the problem with that, Ken, is that I got even more in ABVX. ABVX, I have a 50% long. Oh, do you really want to know how much I have in ATYR? 60%. I don't know if a buyout will happen or not. I mean, I think it's a function of what Mark wants to do. He's a great CEO. Like I said, know him personally. That's why I'm trusting basically the bulk of my portfolio to him. Yeah, Mark's good at M&A. I don't think that necessarily that means he's going to sell. I think it makes more sense for him to maybe, he's not stupid. So the thing about Mark is it makes sense for him to launch phase 3 trials in RA, all the classic autoimmune diseases, and just start building, for a sales force. And if somebody like J&J wants to come along and buy out the company, then let him do it. But you never negotiate from a position of weakness. Mark DeGarradell, the CEO of ABVX. I was going to have Mark come work with me at one point a long time ago, and he was the CEO of Ipsen. And he did a good job at Ipsen. Ipsen was a tough company. It's a French family-owned drug company, big company. We couldn't get a deal done, but Mark went and he did some kind of startup and he sold it to Novo Nordisk for $1 billion. Did he do 2? I forget exactly. He might have done 2, maybe just 1. Yeah, I think ABVX can hit 200 pretty easily. It's just one of these things where humans are very poor Bayesians. We don't incorporate brand new information really well. And the brand new information here is, for $5-ish billion, you've got a drug that could be one of the biggest drugs in pharmaceutical history. It could bring in $5 billion in 1 year very easily, just based on what we know about now. So paying $5 billion for it's a no-brainer. It's just hard for people to buy a stock after it's doubled or 10x or 5x on. But you have to let those emotions go. You're not here to be emotional or play Captain Hindsight. You're here to figure out, what is this thing worth? I don't look at charts for that reason. I don't want to look at the chart and get influenced by where the price was someday in the past. If I'm Novartis, I'm not a stock trader. I go meet with you, we talk about potential peak sales for the drug, maybe under Novartis' stewardship, it could be a $10 billion drug. What's that worth to Novartis? They'll pay maybe $15 billion for that. It's a 3x from here. Patent is terrible. I think you get enough years out of that patent, and maybe you make a follow-on. It's not clear how you perfectly thread this needle, but then again, that's where Mark steps up. The method of use patent should hold up. I mean, nobody expected this, to be fair. So yeah, put yourself in the drug company's shoes, or put yourself in Mark's shoes. The seat as a stock trader is the lowest possible seat in life. The CEO of the company sitting there saying, okay, I've got this amazing data, best in class data in my hands. What do I do now? Well, I can't trust pharma. Pharma's in disarray. They may not make an offer that makes sense for me. I have to build a sales force. Well, let me build a sales force. What can I do on my own? Well, Pharmacyclics got to 21 billion on its own. And that drug, it really is, there's a lot of competition. It didn't sort of end up becoming the great hope that it could have been. No doubt a good drug. But ABVX drug is arguably going to be bigger than Pharmacyclics drug. So, 4x, 5x are very doable here. I love questions like that. What are your views on IPOs? Look, this stream is hard mode. Okay? You might need to meet Kevin for a few years or Amit. Don't come to my stream unprepared. All right? That's like going to, differential equations at MIT, being like, Professor, what's a metric space? Look at you with disgust and disdain. That's all right. I'm just, ask better questions. We don't have level 2 yet, but we will soon. We have something that most web platforms don't have, which is, and we'll be rolling this out very, very soon, is New York Stock Exchange versus NASDAQ. A lot of these platforms, including Yahoo Finance, used to just give you bats. And I think right now Yahoo Finance does not give you national best bid or best offer. I'm curious what TradingView does, actually. Let's take a look at our competitor. I pay for TradingView. Or I should say DL Software pays for TradingView. I may be paying for it personally, I don't know. I don't think Leopold is going to survive long in the hedge fund world. But I wish, I don't wish anybody. Okay, I'm paying for premium. NASDAQ stock market. Okay, they're showing me other markets. This is not bad, but the problem is, what about the markets? It doesn't make any sense because this is the primary listing, fine. But this is from NASDAQ CBOE1? NASDAQ data should come from NASDAQ, not from CBOE, which is a different exchange. New York Stock Exchange has market share. ICE has, you want best bid, national best bid, best offer. That's NBBO, nationwide best offer. That's totally different than just looking at NASDAQ. Now, I'm not saying it's like some terrible thing or something, but this is so trash. What is this? Technicals? Sell? What is it? Do you guys see this? Who made this? Who in the right mind made this? Is this a speedometer? It's going to sell. All the analysts are bullish. It's a buy. It's almost a strong buy. That's why I'm not worried about TradingView. It's very clear, nobody there actually has ever worked in finance. So is there a bid ask here? Is this supposed to be the bid ask? Man. So there's a 40-cent bid ask on AMGEN? That didn't sound right. Looks a little tighter than that. Okay, it's sort of updating. 2, 3, 4, 5, updated 1, 2, 3, 4, updated 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it updating on it updates every 5? Are they updating every 5 seconds? What kind of stock market is this? Do you guys see this? It updates every 5 seconds. This doesn't even say bid ask. 18, how is this not changing? 19, 20, 21. Oh, this is the bid, of course. It actually changed sort of at the same time as Godel. Godel's showing 87 cents by 50 cents. This is showing 50 by 87. Godel just changed 49.74. Got 30-cent spread. No, these are 1 second. I don't think the candles makes the difference for the bid ask. Otherwise, you'd see one every second. Yeah, so once we have New York Stock Exchange included, because you just don't get Guess what percentage of trades from AMGEN actually happen on NASDAQ? Take a wild guess. It's actually really interesting. Plenty of professionals use TradingView. Well, AMGEN is a NASDAQ stock, so it's not a small amount, but you would expect it to trade a decent amount. So at the time when the volume today was 54,000 shares, my delayed data, there was NASDAQ GS and NASDAQ GM. So what's that? Global Market and Global Select. Is it Global Select? Okay, so on GS it was 31,000 shares. Okay, so these are the same thing. So just the NASDAQ Global GM. The rest were from FINRA's ADF, which is Wall Street, basically. So not electronic. Well, not electronic in the sense you might be thinking. And then 2399 comes from New York Stock Exchange. So you're not going to see these trades on any public system, or most public systems. So we're trying to unobscure that so that you guys can see this type of thing. There's something called the Investors Exchange that has a little bit of market share. And you should be able to see all of these. That's the idea behind Nationwide. This is an electronic exchange called EDGX. Let me show you on something like Nvidia, okay? So earlier today, Nvidia had traded 24 million shares. Guess what percent was on NASDAQ? This is really interesting, actually. This is super interesting. Only 19%. That's kind of shocking almost. ARCA, or New York Stock Exchange, 2 million. The lion's share is in the alternative display facility, which again is kind of Wall Street crossing each other. Pretty wild, right? EDGX has 1 million shares, 5%. CBOE has this BZX exchange. The Members Exchange, Investors Exchange, this is Nvidia's trading market share. Yeah, so FINRA's alternative display facility is a totally separate concept. And so how does that work? Well, in the alternative display facility, traders trade amongst each other. So from this, I'll buy directly from a broker, that goes to the ADF. So here, Virtu Financial has traded the most. UBS, when I call my UBS guy, that's who I'm talking to. MLCO is Merrill Lynch. GS, well, you can take a guess who GS is. There's Cantor, Citi, VCAP is Barclays. Does Optiver really have their own market making code? And MS is Morgan Stanley's. Not traded very much at all today. The reports into the ADF are a little squirrely. You can report them late. Yeah, Optiver has their own thing. I never knew that, actually. This is Northern Trust, NTRC. So what's interesting about this is there's only 3.5 million out of the 14 million traded in ADF. Only 3.5 million is reported. So again, looking at just 19% of the volume is not very useful. So anyway, it may not matter for a lot of people, but I think that if you really want it to be exact, you should know this kind of stuff. And again, if something's going on at UBS, you might say, all right, so UBS has traded $100 million of Nvidia. You might call UBS and say, what are you guys doing in Nvidia? And the UBS guy might say, Shkreli, you haven't paid us in years, get out of here. But if you're Steve Cohen and you call up and you say, what are you guys doing in Nvidia? The guy might say, we had a small hedge fund, medium-sized hedge fund buy some Nvidia this morning. And he might say, okay, good to know. And using that piece of information, you might triangulate some more. There's your market lesson for the day. Yeah, the dark pools could be some of that ADF, but dark pools aren't that active. It's really nothing dark about them, to be honest.